This is the webinar top SEO strategies for law firms. Quick introduction about me. I have over 15 years experience in the digital marketing industry. Some of the sectors that I work in are the SEO, search engine optimization, SEM, search engine marketing, and development and design. A little bit about my personal hobbies and interests. I'm a mixed martial artist, national and local gold medalist in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Started martial arts at a very young age. And martial arts is a big part of my life, and it influences how I work and my personal life in a major way. A little bit about Soulpepper. This is a quick snapshot of some of the law firms that we currently work with, or that we have worked with across North America. A quick case study from one of our clients located in Toronto, a big family law firm. And these are just some results in the first 3 to 6 months of coming on board with our SEO and SEM program. Another testimonial from one of our long-term clients. He's a personal injury lawyer. The pay-per-click campaign started converting really quickly. He gets about 25 to 30 extra leads a month with really good conversion rates of about 40 to 50%. And when it comes to SEO, his site is one of the top sites Googled for personal injury in his area. Another case study from another major law firm in Toronto. They are a personal injury law firm. They have been working with us for over 2 years, and we've seen a lot of growth on their organic and paid accounts. Testimonial from another law firm, Omni Law Group. They've worked with a lot of different marketing agencies in the past, and Soulpepper stands head above the rest. Been great to work with, and the interactions with their account rep. And they've already started to increase their spend with us after a short few months. And lastly, another family law firm here, and they use a first-time business owner starting practice, and he had zero experience in digital marketing when it came to SEM and SEO, and just saying how we've been very helpful in making sure he understands everything. And in about 2 months now, he couldn't be happier with the results, and his practice has been growing ever since. So who is this presentation for? This is for all types of lawyers: family, personal injury, criminal, wills and estates. So no matter what type of law you practice, this webinar is for you. Lawyers who are aspiring to grow a successful law firm, lawyers who are brand new or just going out on their own, firms who are already have over 100 active files and want to systemize their client acquisition, young lawyers who want to earn millions of dollars in their 20s and 30s extremely really quickly, seasoned lawyers who recognize marketing has changed and want to help getting up to speed with all the new trends and what's happening in the digital marketing world. Focus not just on lawyers, but on motivated entrepreneurs. This is our niche. So if you fit in any of these buckets, this webinar is for you. Quick agenda for today. I'll go over a couple of slides on the history of SEO, and then we'll go over foundation, SEO and development, on-site versus on-site, local versus international, and we'll cover a little bit of strategy at the end, and then we'll get into Q&A. So SEO history. I'm a strong believer in understanding the history of something so you know where it's headed. And when it comes to digital marketing, knowing where it all started from and what the history is, it'll give you a glimpse into the future. So as we can see, SEO has search engine optimization has come a long way. Back in 2011, that's when the first major Google release, their algorithm release happened, and it was based on duplicate, thin content, user-generated spam, keyword stuffing. So back in 2011, it was very easy to do SEO. All you had to do is put in some keywords on the page, and you'll land on the first page of Google. Now, what ended up happening is a lot of irrelevant searches started showing up for people who were searching for specific products, services, and businesses. And Google put this program in place where it's machine learning, and it's taking information from the users and also what they're searching, and comparing it with the content that's on the website. And some of this content is the back end of the website, and some of it is what actually lives on the website as well. And they put in some rules and regulations over the few years to try and stop some of these irrelevant sites from showing up on the first page of Google. And as we go down the list, you could see there's Penguin in 2012, Hummingbird in 2013, and all their focus is around spam, getting rid of irrelevant sites, irrelevant content, keyword stuffing, low quality content. Again, keyword stuffing is if I was to just put in a repetitive amount of keywords into my content just over and over again. Pigeon, again in 2014, was poor on and off page SEO. So again, this goes back to your foundation, your content base, and what you're doing off-site, off-page as well. So this is what type of link building are you working with? Are you doing any link farms and things like that that could be hurting your SEO? Next, we have mobile, which was a major one in 2015. That's when mobile first indexing came into play. So Google's actually looking at your mobile site now first before they look at your desktop site, and are indexing you based on that prioritization. Rank Brain came out in 2015, and the rest you could see getting blacklisted from Google, getting penalized from Google on the different strategies that we put into play. This is a quick stat from Google. So 90% of searchers will pick businesses on the first page of local search results. So if you are a local business owner and you're trying to get business through online marketing, SEO and SEM, landing on the first page of Google is going to be a major key for you to get visibility. You can have a really nice looking website, you can offer great service, but if no one can find you, it's going to be very difficult to get new business online. So let's look at some of our foundation when it comes to SEO. So this is a graph on how you should prioritize your SEO strategy, and it all starts from your foundation. So your business and marketing goals along with keyword research will dictate your target audience, where you will be competing, and with whom. This will also determine the resources you will need to compete. So to put it in perspective, when you figure out your business goals and your marketing goals and where you want to show up online, for example, if you're located downtown Toronto, it's going to be very competitive, and if that's your business goal, then you're going to put a certain amount of work when it comes to SEO to get on the first page of Google and compete with all the other people that are in that field or in that location. Now, if you compare it with a smaller suburb in the outer city, then your competition might be lower. So the amount of work that you're putting, as far as SEO goes, is going to be a lot less than if you're competing, downtown Toronto, New York, Los Angeles, or some of these major areas. So your SEO foundation, your business goals and marketing goals will determine what you're going to do. Now, next level to that is your site health and development. Your site health and development is your technical SEO, your site errors and your site speed, your canonicals and redirects, your UX and UI. So this is purely how your website is behaving and performing. Now, I like to say your foundation has got to be very solid when you start SEO, because when you get to that first or second page of Google and you're competing with some of the top guys on there, the likelihood of them doing SEO and landing on the first page of Google is very high. So you're competing with everybody else that's doing some type of SEO program. Now, if you get to that point and your site has issues, it has speed issues and errors and so on, you're always going to be lacking. Now, you know, if you're competing for the top spot with another law firm and that person has a very healthy site, their site speed is under 3 seconds and they have no issues on their site, but you're doing a lot of content, but your site is lacking as far as performance, you're always going to be on that second spot. So to make sure that nothing is stopping you from landing in that number one spot, first you got to make sure your site is healthy and it's performing well, and it's very important. On-page optimization is the next level, which is optimizing your metadata, your content, your schema, your internal link building. So this is after your site is performing well, you know, optimizing your content, making sure that your service pages and your home page is optimized for the services that you provide. And there's different rules and regulations that Google will follow when they're pulling this information from your site, and being able to stay within those guidelines and optimize your website properly is going to be the key to getting in on the first page of Google. Content strategies next. Again, keyword and topic research, your target audience. So figuring out who your target audience is and doing keyword research and topic research before you start writing your content. Again, you're writing your content for your users, so it's important to know what your users are looking for before you start putting a content strategy in place. Offsite strategy is the last piece of your SEO strategy, which is your social media, you know, sharing everything across your social media channels, sharing it on different websites that are relevant to your business, websites and business directories and so on, different blogs that may exist that are relevant to your business and your services that you provide, and other related online media. I'll talk a little bit more about the offsite strategy later on, but this is kind of the gist of, you know, how you should stack and prioritize the different sections of your SEO strategy. So again, going back to our foundation, if you were to think like a marketer, you'll hit all your goals when it comes to SEO. Now, I've put down some key factors that you should be looking at when it comes to SEO. Again, you have click-through rate, which stands for CTR. You have your UI and UX, so your user interface design and how your website is designed. You know, this is your navigation. Is it working properly? Are you using best practices when it comes to UX and UI? Your bounce rate and your user flow. Your content, make sure your content serves a purpose, and your conversions at the end. Now, if we were to flip this backwards and look at our conversions at the top of the line, so what can I do so my website converts? How do I get my users to convert, pick up the phone and call me, or fill out a form on my website? And work backwards, I will hit all my goals. So, you know, looking at, you know, having my phone number on the page, looking at having a call to action on my page, and, you know, looking to put some content out there so users can come back to my site and read again, whether it's my blog, whether it's my service pages. And again, dissecting and looking at my bounce rate and my user flow. How high is my bounce rate? Are people leaving the site right away when they're landing on my pages, or are they staying and reading my blog? Are they going to my service pages and they contact pages? And UX and UI, again, pretty self-explanatory. Navigation should be very easy. They should be able to get to all my pages in any page on my website. So one thing to note is that a user is not always going to land on your homepage, especially if you're getting indexed on Google. They may land on your service pages through Google. So for them to be able to navigate from one of your third level, fourth level pages to any other page within your website easily is going to be key. And at the top of the list again is your click-through rate. So this is how many impressions you're getting organically on Google and how many people are clicking on those. And it goes back to optimizing your metadata and meta title, being able to attract the customers that way. SEO and development is another section. So this is a major part. It started in 2015, as I mentioned, with mobile sites and tablets coming out, and Google making it mandatory for you to have a responsive site, and your site being able to function properly on mobile and tablets and desktop. Now, again, here's some stat from Google comparing mobile smartphones to computers and tablets. And as you can see, work from home, obviously the tablets and desktop percentage is a little bit higher. But when you see on the go, in-store, workplace, restaurant, hotels and motels, airports are all higher than mobile and desktop. And that's why Google has given priority to your mobile site over any other device. So if you're looking at your mobile site and things are broken on your mobile site, you have to fix it right away. And your site speed for your mobile site is going to be very important as well, because the attention span for someone on mobile is a lot lower than someone on desktop. So attention span for someone on desktop is about 3 to 5 seconds. On mobile is going to be a lot lower because people are on the go, they're searching for products and services, and if they're not finding what they're looking for, they're leaving right away. 61% of mobile searchers are more likely to contact a local business if they have a mobile friendly site. So that's over half the people that are searching on mobile are more likely to contact your business if you have a mobile friendly site. So again, this is stat from Google. Very key to look at your mobile site and making sure that's working properly, because it's going to affect how you get indexed. And not only your user behavior, but how Google indexes you, it's going to be based on this data. Mobile first indexing, we talked about that. Again, Google provides tools, and there's a lot of free tools out there for you to look at your site and inspect your site. This is a testing tool from Google that'll tell you, it'll grade you on how well your site's doing when it comes to performance. And you can see here, this is one of the websites that we've done for one of the law firms here. And their website is performing in the 90 to 100%. So they're graded very high when it comes to Google. So the speed factor is not going to be an issue when they're competing for that number 1 or number 2 spot on Google. So making sure your site is healthy, again, part of your foundation is going to be very important. Your UX and UI and site health depends on development to ensure website health and performance. So what I mean by that is how your website is developed is going to affect how you get indexed. Now, there could be a lot of things. There could be backend errors on your website that you're not seeing as a user that are maybe causing your website to slow down. Maybe your website platform when you're developing your site and updating your site ongoing as well. Understand the basics of dev, front end and back end. So understanding this is going to give you more visibility on what's happening with your site health. And again, there's a lot of sites that I see out there that work and function fine when you look at it, but as soon as you pop the hood or look on the back end, there is loads of errors in the code. And the important thing to note here is you're trying to serve two purposes. One is you're trying to create a nice website that looks nice and functions well for your visitors, but also for the Google spiders, because at the end of the day, those are going to be the ones that are going to dictate where you get indexed. And if you have errors in the back end of your site, if your site is outdated, and you have coding errors, or if it's slow, you're never going to get to that #1 spot. So people are never going to find you on organically when it comes to Google or Bing or any other major search engine. Speed and load test we talked about, and mobile first indexing. Now, this is a snapshot of Google Search Console. Again, it's a free tool from Google. And with this, you can actually set this up with your site, and it'll show you all the errors that you have on your site. And here's just some quick examples in the snapshot. You know, as you can see, this site has a redirect error that Google has picked up. And Google will let you know what the error is. And then it's up to your developer and your SEO team to fix this issue and reapply again through Google so it can get verified. Sometimes an easy fix for a developer on the back end will impact SEO results on SERPs. So there's a lot of different ways to develop a website, a lot of different ways to create a landing page. But how you create that landing page is going to be very important. Now, if you take shortcuts and let's say you're embedding your text in your images as an example, or the images that you're uploading are way too heavy for the page to load, it's going to cause issues. But you're not going to necessarily see that when you're viewing the page. But what's going to pick that up are the Google spiders that are crawling the page. Code errors and server errors. Again, I talked about code errors a little bit. Server errors are another major component as well. And this is directly to do with your hosting provider. And I'll talk a little bit about that in the slide after this. Redirect and canonicals. So redirect and canonicals are a way that you can tell Google if you have removed the page, if you have redesigned your website, or if a certain page no longer exists, for you to tell Google to redirect all that effort that you've put onto that page, all the history that that page has picked up over the years through crawlers, and pass that through to another page, so you're not losing all that information. We call it link juice. So over time, your website has builds link juice, builds authority. Now, if you automatically remove that page from your website, you're losing all that history. But a way you can pass that history to another page is through your redirect and canonicals and setting up those properly. And hosting, again, it's to do with your server errors, and it's got a lot to do with your site performance and speed as well. So I'll talk a little bit about that here. Some of the things to look for with your hosting provider: do you have a dedicated server? Again, speed is is an important factor when it comes to SEO. When you're hosting with a dedicated server, speed performance is way higher than a shared server with 100,000 other websites. So a lot of the times, people will go with the cheapest option when it comes to hosting. And what tends to happen is you're actually sharing your server with 100,000 other websites, and your performance might be a lot slower than if you were to go with an option that has a dedicated server. Do you have server caching with your hosting provider? Do you have a global CDN, content delivery network? Do you have page performance plus, content performance plus, application performance plus? These are all different things to look for when you're picking a hosting provider. And you know, at Soulpepper, what we provide as our hosting platform is only the top of the line, because we know how important it is for your page and your website to perform well. And this will affect who you pick as your hosting provider, is going to greatly affect how you get indexed and how your page is performing. Again, I love this quote. It says, "Price is what you pay, value is what you get." So again, the cheapest option for hosting is not always the best. So look for some details on your hosting provider. Make sure they're giving you the value that you need for your business and your website to perform well. So now let's jump into on-site SEO. So on-site SEO, your foundation will be the key to your growth. Again, doing proper research and making sure you're looking at what keywords you're targeting based on research that you're doing, like Google, using Google's tools to do proper keyword research, doing competitive analysis to see what keywords you need to target, and not just arbitrarily coming up with different keywords. Content optimization as part of your on-site SEO. Again, this is your backend, your metadata, and your on-site. Making sure that you're optimizing your meta title and your meta description so that when Google crawlers are scanning your website, they know exactly what your service is and what your company provides. Site health, we talked about that. Usability, we talked a lot about that as well. Using Google's tools to monitor your site. Again, this is very important. Send up your Search Console and your Google Analytics. These are free tools, and these are going to give you insight as to what's happening with your site. Are you getting indexed? Are you getting impressions for different keywords that you're trying to target? Does your site have errors? Is it slow? Your Google Analytics is going to give you more details on what happens when traffic actually hits your site. So Search Console is more of I call it, it's like your heart of your website. So if you're listening to the heartbeat of your website, that's where you would go to look at your site health and all that stuff. And then your Google Analytics is more data on what's happening on your website. So your user flow, how much traffic you're getting from different sources, and your bounce rate, and etc. So your content strategy is going to be key after your foundation is all set up. So research your topics. Make sure the topic and content is appealing to your audience. Write for your visitors and not yourself. So this is very important. Make sure you research the topic and you're either answering a question or you're giving some insight to your visitors. If you're just arbitrarily writing content based on what you like, you may not be hitting that sweet spot when it comes to your content, and your content may not be as appealing when you're launching it on your site. Another important factor as well is to make sure you write your content based on your target audience. So, you know, a lot of times lawyers will start generating content that is very technical. And what you want to do is you want to dumb it down a little bit, because the people that are visiting your site are not lawyers, you know, and they may not fully understand everything that you're putting into that content. So making sure you're writing for the average Joe, the person who's going to come and hire you for your services, is going to be very important. Make sure your content serves a purpose, answer a question, provide insight. Share the content across your social channels. So this is your Google Business, this is your Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Track your indexing, clicks, and bounce rate. Very important. You want to be able to track your indexing to see if the content that you put out is getting indexed, is getting impressions, and at the end of the day, is it getting clicks? And then when people are landing on that page, how high is your bounce rate? So all these metrics are going to be important to how your content is performing. So when you launch a piece of content, don't just leave it there. Make sure you're coming back and looking at these stats. Set goals for your landing pages. Set up your on-site optimization and internal linking. You want to set goals for your landing page. So is it to subscribe to your blog? Is it to pick up the phone and call you, fill out a form on your site, whatever that may be? And create a reason for your audience to return to your website. So this all goes back to what kind of content strategy you put in place. And revisit old pages and make edits based on new data. And this data is from your impressions, your click-through rate. This is all information that Search Console and Google Analytics will provide. Offsite SEO. So offsite SEO, I like to call this as who's the most popular kid in school. Again, making sure you set up relevant link building. So these are link building with other sources and sites that are relevant to your business. If you start doing link building with sites that have zero relevance with your business, then that's not going to do you any good. You know, you might get penalized or blacklisted from Google. So the question I would ask is, what does your backlink profile look like? Your social media impact, being active on social media, whether you're running ads, you're posting and you're boosting your posts through social media to gain more traffic to the content that you've put out. External content creation, and enabling commenting and collaboration if you can manage. So if you can manage this part, and you're getting a lot of traffic to your site, enabling content, comments, and collaboration on your blog is a good thing to have, but you're going to need someone to manage that, to get rid of spam and reply to people who are posting comments. Understanding your authority score and page rank. So authority score and page rank is pretty much a score that Google gives you on a page by page basis. And the higher your page rank, the more authority you're going to get, and the higher you're going to move in Google search. And this is just a quick graph from a backlink profile on how many toxic backlinks you have and how many non-toxic backlinks you have. And again, you want to make sure your overall toxic score sits at low. Local versus international, I'll cover this really quickly. So again, a lot of sites come built in with a location and a language preference. So this is your setting up your metadata in the backend and letting Google know where you want to get indexed, and making sure you set that up properly. So if you're in Canada, you want to make sure your language is set to English and your location is set to Canada. Now, a lot of developers, when they build the site, all the sites come pre-built with either US location or UK. So making sure you check that out and change that is going to be very important, because then you're sending different signals to Google, and you're telling Google that you're targeting US, but your business is actually in Canada. Setting expectation based on targets. So again, local SEO versus international SEO. If you're targeting internationally and your business is purely online, it's gonna take a lot more to get indexed and move up on the first page of Google. And just understanding the amount of work that goes into international versus local is gonna set you up for success. Setting up your target for each site and each country and each language. So again, if you're in 2 different countries, US and Canada, you want to make sure you set up 2 different versions of your site and target each country separately. And you can do that using multi-language SEO settings. So it doesn't pick up your site content as duplicate content. That's going to be very important. And also, understanding that people in different countries behave differently on your site, and that's why you want to treat them differently. When it comes to keyword research, for example, in the US they use a lot of attorney versus lawyer, and in Canada they use a lot of lawyer. So being able to optimize for those separately is going to be important. And how you do that is by separating your sites, US and Canada. I'll skip through this because we got a lot more to cover. SEO strategy. So let's get into some strategy talk here. So content is king. So when everything's all set up, your site is optimized and it's good health, your content is going to be the key factor to driving your performance up. And again, this is just a quick snapshot of a content plan. Here, we're seeing what type of headlines we should be targeting, what type of questions people are asking that we should be answering, and we can start separating our content based on if you're a personal injury lawyer, based on car accidents, based on brain injury categories. So we can start categorizing our content that way and start creating a content plan for the next 12 months. So that way your website is constantly putting out fresh content, and this content is appealing to your target audience. Your metadata optimization, some top level things to look for. Again, stay within limits, stay under the 200 mark. So average is about 200 to 350 letters. Descriptive meta title and description. So making sure you're being descriptive in your meta title and description. Again, there's some rules and regulation to follow when you're optimizing these, and following Google's guidelines is going to be key when you're writing your metadata. Optimizing your metadata for conversions and click-through rate. So again, this goes back to looking at your old pages and seeing what kind of impressions and click-through rate you're getting, and re-optimizing your metadata to get better clicks over time. Again, the higher your click-through rate, the more relevant you become. So at a certain time, Google's going to give you that prime spot on the first page of Google. Now, if people land on your page and click on your listing and go to your website, but they leave right away, Google's going to start dropping you down in ranking, because it's going to learn that, hey, I've put this person on the first page of Google for this specific keyword, but it looks like a lot of people, when they go there, they're leaving right away, so they're not finding what they're looking for. So that's why it's important for you to make sure you get high click-through rate. First, people are clicking and going to your listing, and secondly, they're staying on your site. Optimize, again, this is a snapshot from Google Search Console. Re-optimize the pages with highest impressions to increase click-through rate. So looking at your past performance and seeing what pages are getting the highest impressions and optimizing those for better click-through rate. So over time, you're increasing your average click-through rate, which is going to give you better performance. Again, better CTR will boost your ranking. If your CTR drops for high ranking pages, so will your ranking. So again, this is a daily task, weekly task, that you should be looking at this report and re-optimizing old pages. Website health, we talked a lot about this. Again, looking at your error report in Search Console and making sure you're fixing this. And once you fix your error report, it's important to look at this on a weekly, monthly basis, because errors will always come up. Code is always changing online. Platforms are always getting updated on a monthly basis, and you got to stay up to date. So your developer, your SEO team has to be looking at this constantly to make sure that your site is in good health. And again, some other snapshots of Google Search Console. Monthly audit, it'll give you even insight on your speed and performance. And we talked about, what goes into, what are the different factors that affect your site speed. Again, your hosting, your website platform is outdated. Maybe there's a new Google update that your website is not complying with, and your content as well. How heavy is your content? Is your content optimized for web? Mobile friendliness, we talked a lot about that as well. Again, this is another report directly from Google Search Console telling you if your website pages are mobile friendly, and if it's not, you should address it, you should fix it, and validate it with Google again. AMP Pages, this is a program that Google has put out. It's called Accelerated Mobile Pages. So it's an open source HTML framework that you should be using on your site, because Google gives priority to AMP pages over regular pages. So if you're not using AMP pages on your website, I suggest tomorrow you set this up, because there's a lot of other law firms and businesses that are using AMP pages already, and this has been put in play for over 3 years now. So if you're not using this on your website, I suggest you get on it right away. And again, Search Console gives you reporting on if your AMP pages are set up properly or not. So once you set that up, this is another thing that you're looking at on a monthly basis to make sure you're up to date with everything. And again, website performance. How's your SEO performing? Looking at your impression, your keyword data and impressions. Are your impressions growing month over month? So one thing to look for are your non-branded keywords growing month over month? So again, branded keywords are keywords that have your brand name in them, but non-branded is, like personal injury lawyer in Toronto, personal injury lawyer in New York. So those type of keywords, you want to make sure those are growing month over month when it comes to your impressions. And again, website analytics, looking at this on a monthly basis, you want to make sure you look at year over year data, because SEO is a long-term play. Anything you do organically will take about 3 months for you to see any results. Now, by any results, I mean results that may show up, you get indexed or you move up from page 10 to page number 2. It's going to be different for different people, but making sure you're looking at your leads, your traffic, and your impressions on a year-over-year basis, because seasonality can come into play. So if you're comparing month over month, sometimes you may not see the most accurate data. So make sure once you're with an SEO program for over a year, you're comparing that data with year over year. Another stat from Google: near me or close by type searches grew by more than 900% over 2 years, over the last 2 years. So again, your keyword research is going to play a major factor on what those keywords are doing for your business. So again, making sure you're tracking all the keywords and how you're ranking is going to be important, because without that, you're not going to know how your SEO is performing. And make sure you track all branches of your keyword to be able to measure performance. So again, you're tracking lawyer, you're tracking personal injury lawyer, you're tracking personal injury lawyer in Vancouver, all the branches. So your short tail keyword and long tail keywords, because some of these short tail keywords are going to be a little bit harder to hit, especially in the first 3 to 6 months. But what's important is you're going to be able to see some progress when it comes to some of the longer tail keywords, and it's going to tell you if you're going in the right direction or not. So the tracking all branches of the keywords is going to be very important. Here's a quick study on how Google Business, your Google Business page, can come into play with keywords and how different keywords react. So again, in the first column here, typed in personal injury law firm, and this is the result that came up. So it's based on, who's better optimized, and the website is better optimized, and they have, different factors within the Google Business and their website. The second column here is personal injury law firm in Vancouver. So it's actually showing me, it's actually changed the result for me, and it's showing me the location that I specified. And the last one here, when I type in best personal injury law firm in Vancouver, it's going to show me the one that has the highest ratings as far as the Google reviews. So another big important factor when it comes to Google Business is going to be how many reviews are you generating on a monthly basis, and making sure you have that program set up. You're sending out text messages, you're sending out emails to people that have visited your business constantly to try to get your Google reviews up. Again, this is another quick snapshot from Google on smartphone versus computers and tablets. And again, you could see that on smartphone, 53% are using directions to local stores, and again, 50% is local store address. So your Google Business is going to play a big part when it comes to your local SEO optimization, and optimizing your Google Business is going to be an important factor. And remember, your website and your Google Business account will help each other in ranking. So again, you could see in this snapshot here, there is a snippet from Google that says their website mentions law firm. So making sure you're optimized is going to help your Google Business move up in ranking. And also, obviously, optimizing your Google Business and staying active on a weekly basis, making sure you're posting updates on your Google Business constantly is going to be very important, and ensure your competitors are playing by the rules. In some cases, competitors have different tactics they put in play, and you can actually flag your competitors for not playing by the rules, and Google will penalize them as well. So making sure everybody that you're competing with is playing by the rules is going to be an important part as well. Review reports and insight to better understand your positioning on Google. Again, reports are everything. Your Google Analytics, your Google Search Console, and your Google Business is going to even provide you with reports. So here's a quick snapshot of a Google Business report. Again, looking at how many directions, website visits, phone calls you're getting on a monthly basis, and is that number growing over time? You know, if you're comparing it from this time to last year, how is your performance compared? So looking at that data is going to be important. Again, we talked about Google, generate Google reviews. So the more 5-star reviews you have, the higher you'll climb on Google for specific keywords, you know, such as best, you know, law firm, and different keywords in that scenario. And ensuring you reply to every review, even the bad ones. You know, sometimes you do get bad reviews, but to make sure that you're replying to those bad reviews is going to be important. You know, when you start flagging some of those bad reviews, Google will take that into consideration when they're, you know, when they're seeing if they want to remove it or not. And you can also remove bad or fake reviews from your GMB listing. Again, we have a good relationship with Google. Our SEO team is jumping on the phone right away when you get a bad review and try and dispute it and remove it. So this is one thing that you should be doing. You know, if you don't have direct contact with Google, then you know, you just have to flag it and make sure, you know, once they reach it, you've done everything you could for them to be able to remove it. Again, Google Search Console, we talked a lot about this on errors reporting and making sure you're fixing your errors, and you're creating separate profiles for important pages to see your performance. And make sure your website is targeted in the right country. You can actually set that in your Google Business, in your Google Search Console. You can set that up on what country you're targeting. Awesome, guys. So that's it. I know we've gone a little bit over time, but I want to get into Q&As. If anybody has any questions, we got a couple minutes here before we got to wrap. So I'll give it about maybe 20, 30 seconds for any questions. If not, you guys can always reach us at Soulpepper if you have any direct questions. While we wait for that too, we have this offer today where the first 5 people that book a discovery call will receive a free website audit. So if you want to see how your website is performing, we will send out an email after the webinar, which will have a link to book. And once you book, then you know, we'll get a chance to talk and see what your goals are, and I'll give you a free website audit to see, you know, what are some of the major things that you should be fixing on your site. Question here from John Hunter. Is it important to let my clients know that they need to put some good keywords in reviews for Google Business? It's not, John. I mean, you wanna stay away from, you know, them trying to optimize it themselves because they may not know, and sometimes Google might flag it as fake. So just let them write it naturally. You know, the more stars you get, that's what you're looking for. So just let it happen naturally. Your optimization comes from optimizing your Google Business and your website. The star rating is just, you know, letting Google know how good your business is. Jenna Brown, we are in 3 locations. Can we optimize our website for all 3 locations, or would we need to have a website for each location? Jenna, the only way that you're separating your website is country by country. So if your 3 locations are in Canada or all of them are in the US, then you can optimize your website for all 3 locations with that one site. Unless you have a business in Canada, business in US, then I would recommend you separating those. Another question from Instagram. How come my website doesn't rank as high as it used to, even though I haven't changed anything? Again, this comes back to your site health. Looking to see if your site is optimized well, or is it, maybe there's a new Google release that came out and your website's not complying with it. So there's a lot of different factors that go into play, and making sure you looking under the hood is going to give you some insight to that. What are some strategies for generating more reviews? Again, we have a great program here at Soulpepper. We have a tool that we use that you can run email campaigns and send text messages, and it automatically does the follow-ups for you. So making sure you have something in play. It doesn't even have to be a tool, but making sure you have someone that constantly following up with people after they leave, even if it's 2 days after, 5 days after, to make sure you get that Google review, because that Google review is going to stay there for a long time. So making sure you collect these over time is going to be important. And right away too, as soon as you deliver the service, make sure you request that Google review, because if you wait a long time, then people start forgetting about it and they start forgetting about the service and so on. So so making sure you stay on that is important. Awesome, guys. I think I've answered most of the questions. And again, we're a little bit over time. So what I will do is let me put my Calendly link in here in the chat box for anybody that may want to book a demo. So that way you guys may not have to wait for the email as well. Let me set that. Let me pull that up real quick here. While we wait for that, are there any other questions from our audience here? Anything? It could be anything to do with technical SEO, content related. Thank you, Jenna. I'll give it 2 more minutes. If there's not more questions, I'm just going to paste this book link here. And if you're looking to get that free website audit, if you're part of the first 5, you'll get that free website audit. So that way you'll get more insight as to what might be causing some of the issues on your site if you're not ranking well. Awesome. Great, guys. Thank you so much for joining the webinar, and we'll see you next time.